See now, if I knew we was going to put feelings into words, we'd have memorised the Song of Solomon. Solomon Kane, that is. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man! At your swashbuckling services yet again. How are you all? I hope you're doing very, very well. Let me just put me cutlass down over here. Out of harm's way, as it were. Now, I have mentioned I'm doing a bit of a fantasy run at the moment. And we did Legend from Ridley Scott, and we did Conan the Destroyer, which is the beginning of a bit of a Robert E. Howard sort of onslaught of reviews. I'm attacking the Conan movies from a bit of an oblique angle, hitting the second one first, and then we're going to do the lesser ones, and then we're going to grow onto Conan the Barbarian. But I got to thinking, I did, about a certain West Country battler of evil that Robert E. Howard created as well. In fact, predating Conan, a puritanical avenger, a Hellboy type character who just defeats evil wherever he finds it, single-mindedly, with a ruthlessness that knows no bounds. Yes, Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane only appeared in a few stories and a couple of poems and a bit of prose, and then some unfinished stories. I have them all, which other people then went on to try and finish, but you know, they're not Robert E. Howard. But the original stories are great, and that's a good version to get hold of, if you can find it. And in 2009, writer-director Michael J Bassett unleashed Solomon Kane, one of the most comics savvy and visionary directors who you've never heard of, who really took on board Robert E. Howard's lesser known but massively cult cherished character, an icon, a puritanical avenger, as I say, sort of a Van Helsing. In fact, he looks just like Van Helsing, because who did Michael J Bassett get to play Solomon Kane? James Purefoy. James Purefoy in a long wig, a bit like this, and a big slouchy Puritan's hat, and a big long frock coat and a cape, looks just like Hugh Jackman did in Van Helsing. So much so that people went, this is like a Van Helsing rip-off. Is he meant to be Van Helsing? No. That is the outfit of Solomon Kane, as written in the books by Robert E. Howard. So, he came first. Indeed he did. So, well, the character of Solomon Kane didn't come before the character of Van Helsing. Certain Bram Stoker will be revolving in his grave right now on that one. But, you know what I mean. So, 2009 the film came out. Now, incidentally, before I go into the full review of this movie, I have a little connection to this film, because back in those bygone days, I was reviewing films for AV Forums, as many of you know. And alongside my good friend Simon, we were able to go and enjoy a pre-release version of the movie in full glorious, it was finished off, and a big widescreen, glorious presentation in a private cinema. But not only that, we got to interview Michael J Bassett himself. We had dinner with the guy. We went out to a pub and had a great big meal, and then went back and did hours worth of recording interviews with him, because the guy would not shut up. He's a bit like myself. Once his gob opens and he's enthusiastic, that's it. There's no stopping him. Now, if you do peruse the YouTube, you will find possibly somewhere, maybe 8 or 9, maybe even 10 of these little video snippet interviews which we did for AV Forums. They're there. And you'll see a short-haired, rather chubby-jowled, because I was drinking lots and lots and lots of beer in those days. So, we did our best to try to dissect his production of Solomon Kane, but also gotta be honest, because the guy was sitting there and we've been treated to a meal and a big day out and a fabulous viewing of the movie. We weren't exactly cutting when it came to the review. Well, not the review, but the actual interrogation of the filmmaker and creator. So, and we were told, because you've had this, please none of you guys actually review the movie. We're going to get someone else to review it. So, to be honest, I never did review Solomon Kane, and it's a shame that it's taken, 11 years for me to get around to actually saying how I feel about this movie and what Michael J Bassett did with it. Michael J Bassett had done the film Death Watch prior to this, which I absolutely couldn't stand. I hated it with a vengeance. And he's done Ash vs Evil Dead and a load of other TV shows, the Wilderness horror film, I think it was called Wilderness, and but not enough, because he is a damn good filmmaker, and he really shone a beacon on one of the lesser known fantasy sword and sorcery characters and gave him a big shot. Now, Michael J Bassett wrote and directed this movie, so it's not based on any Robert E. Howard specific story, and yet it does have all the flavours that Howard put in to his stories of Solomon Kane, the 16th century battler of evil, working for the church, working for God. He scorned all women, all pleasures of the flesh. He was single-minded, but he would protect the innocent. He would, like the Equalizer, he would right the wrongs. He would travel far and wide. As the stories progress, a lot of them go all over the world. He does meet a voodoo practitioner who becomes an ally of his, and he begins to wield, as well as his brace of pistols and his gorgeous cutlass and rapier, he carries a voodoo juju stick. You try saying that after a few whiskies. A voodoo juju a stick, and which has magical powers as well. But he's overzealous, he's ruthless, he is a master swordsman as well. It's a great character. There's far more depth and interest and complexity to someone like Solomon Kane than there is to Conan, say. Anyway, Michael J Bassett gave an origin story and a great fulfilled destiny story and a great adventure all rolled into one epic movie. And let's get into it now. So, even though it was made in sort of like 2007, 2008, and then languished for almost a year on the shelf with post-production before it actually got a very limited release, very piss poor marketing and distribution, especially in America where no one ever noticed it at all. And it's such a criminal shame, because this movie really should have spawned an entire franchise. James Purefoy, who I've seen since the early 90s in the TV show Coasting, where he's one of two brothers up to no good around Blackpool and all over the Northwest. And he was great in that. He was the man that was going to be James Bond at one stage. Yeah, I know. Who wasn't? I believe even I was in the running at one stage. But he's in so many movies, ironclad. He proves his worth with a sword as well. He's in The Great John Carter, another film where it's just one guy's name, where no mass cinema going audience knew what the hell it was about. Totally, badly, ineptly distributed and marketed so cack-handedly, The John Carter, which is a great movie. One day I will give it its full kilted day in court, but John Carter was awesome too, and horribly failed through no fault of its own. And James Purefoy was in that as well. So you could be saying, James Purefoy, you're the kiss of death. But he's also one of the stars of Rome, and he's been in so many other movies, and he is a great actor. And he really acts his little West Country titties off in this movie. Solomon Kane is from the West Country, so is James Purefoy. So James Purefoy uses one of those West Country accents, which is his own accent, and he's proud to do it as well. He's got the long-haired wig on. He starts the film off as the badass, ruthless, totally evil Solomon Kane, who's a pirate king. He served with Sir Francis Drake, but they parted company, and the film opens with him and his crew, who are all terrified of him as well, because he's a man monster, and they're laying siege to this citadel on top of a promontory in northwest Africa, and they lay siege to that from offshore. Then they storm the gates of this castle, they blow the doors wide open. There was a Michael Caine joke I was going to use there, but I won't bother. There's too many accents already in this video. And then he will find the throne room. All his men get plucked by these sort of mirror monsters that live in the hinterworld behind the glass, and drag his crewmen in. The door's shut behind him and he's left alone in what would be the throne room for the ultimate treasure. But no, what's lying in wait for him? It's the Devil's Reaper, played by the monstrously tall Ian White, looking just like one of the the Nazgul, the Dark Riders from Lord of the Rings, Black Riders, who says, Solomon Kane, you made a pact with the devil, and the devil's come to collect. And Solomon Kane's like, no, I didn't. What pact was that? I didn't make any deal with Satan. Yes, you did the first time you took a life. So this is it. This is the crux of the matter. They want to drag Solomon Kane to hell for eternity to suffer at the whim and the lack of mercy of Satan himself. But no, Solomon Kane's like, I'm not having none of that. So he literally leaps out of a window, fights this thing, but leaps out of a window, a big stained glass window, and manages to wash up somewhere else. And a year later we find him in a very frozen, barren England, which is actually the Czech Republic where they filmed it, but it does look spectacular and dismal, just like oldie England. In fact, modern England looks. And he's in a church, and he's gone all Robert De Niro, Max Cady on everybody, because he is tattooed to hell and back with biblical and religious symbolism. He has pages from the Bible and the scriptures all over the walls in his room, and he's following a life of peace now because he's trying to make amends. Look, I'm not letting the devil take me, so I'm going to turn my life to peace. I'll never hurt another man again, and all this sort of stuff. And it's great. So you've already got this massive complexity, this duality of the two sides of his nature. And what I love about it is the fact that he is a badass, ruthless bastard of a man, but he doesn't want to go to hell either. So I'll turn to a life of, goodness and innocence and purity. Bullshit. It's like all these movies where a special forces veteran, no, I don't do that anymore. No, and then they get pushed to the limits. They get pushed and pushed and pushed, and then finally, the bit that you want to see, the final third of the movie, right, that's it. I'm gonna fight back now. And they've always got like a little hidden cask full of all their weapons and their uniform and their bulletproof vest and their knives. You know it's coming. So of course, Solomon Kane has pledged his life to peace, and he will not take up arms against anyone again. But the deacon, the priest, the whatever in charge of this abbey, says to him, Solomon, look, I'm afraid I've been having dark dreams, and you loom hugely in them. You may have a purpose somewhere, but it's not here. You must leave. You must leave. Your redemption lies elsewhere. So he gets outcast. So like a pilgrim, he trudges off across the country, and he will encounter Pete Postlethwaite. Yes, the great Pete Postlethwaite, and Alice Krieg, the Borg Queen, who are travelling with their family because they want to make a new life in the new world, America. And so they're travelling cross country to get a ship to go overseas. And he falls in with them. But evil is abroad across the land. And you've got Malachi, this sorcerer, somewhere off in some realm, some kingdom somewhere, is sending out his masked Darth Vader-like acolyte, riding a horse in a big sort of leather mask, who is gaining an army. All the weak are made into slaves around the land, but the strong become his soldiers. But what he'll do, he'll put his hands on them, and through some kind of weird sorcery, he'll turn their eyes inky black, and he'll leave livid scars on their faces, and they will become pretty much like orcs, you could say. But mighty, horrible bastards they are as well. So, and his army will then grow in number, gain strength, and carry on across the land, ransacking every township and village they come to, and including Solomon Kane and his newfound friends. Because Solomon now, although he's the man with no name really, although his name is Solomon Kane, but he is very similar to Clint Eastwood's character from the Dollars trilogy: taciturn, quiet, introverted, strong-willed, and stoic. But that wall will be broken down by his family. The little lad, he'll learn to play fight with him. Meredith, the daughter, he'll talk to her. She'll make him a new bunch of clothes because it's actually far cooler clothes, and a bit dishevelled and muddy. And he'll talk about morals and the life they had before with Pete Postlethwaite, this Puritan, who says, look, doesn't matter. God likes someone who, redeems himself, and it takes many forms. Your path lies out there. Maybe you should come with us. And of course, Solomon Kane is a life of prosperity and hopefulness, optimism, which lies in wait. But no, Malachi's badass band of renegades attack them all and pretty much kill everybody. They even kill the little lad. They slit his throat in front of Solomon Kane. They've already encountered Solomon Kane, and he refused to fight them earlier on when they were just human badass thieves and robbers. Now they've been transformed into black-eyed zealots of Malachi. So they encountered him again. You're the one who won't fight and all that kind of shit. And he's like, I can't. Please let the boy go. And Purefoy's commitment, you see him burning with I can kill all of you, but I've pledged my life not to do that, because the minute that I do, it's over for me. I'm condemned to hell. He knows it to be true. So it's like this horrible moral crossroads. But even so, in front of him and in front of all the family, they slit the little lad's throat. And in a great moment, James Purefoy or Solomon Kane will say, if I take up arms, if I kill another man, I've got a deal that I'm going to hell. But that's a price I'm willing to pay. And picks up his weapons, starts fighting, lays waste. Sadly, Pete Postlethwaite and almost the entire family have been killed. Alice Krieg is alive, the mother, but Meredith, the daughter, has been taken because they've stumbled across another little burnt-out township where apparently a witch burning went hideously wrong, and they find a little child, like Newt in Aliens, like the little girl in the great creature feature Them, this little girl, lost, alone, forlorn, abandoned, shocked and terrified. She was the fucking witch! But Solomon Kane's realised that, and their campfire that night, he's saying, you wear this crucifix. Don't worry, little girl, you'll be safe now. And of course, this little girl's like that. Argh! But she's put the mark on Meredith. What's the mark? Well, it's like Treasure Island, a bit of a black mark, the black spot on her hand, but it marks her out. So that when this witch takes off and transforms into a horde of ravens and takes off into the black night sky, Solomon, of course, knows you've been marked, but don't worry about it. And then, of course, she's the one that gets taken by this band of Malachi's renegade, orc-like creatures, who then put her in a caged wagon and ship her off across the land on a big cross-country odyssey. But Pete Postlethwaite's dying words to Solomon Kane are, get her back. Please, just get her back. Promise me. Or, I promise you I does. I'll get her back if it's the last thing I does, says Solomon Kane. So, in a great montage, he picks up his weapons, puts on Pete Postlethwaite's Puritan's hat, puts on his jacket, puts on the cloak, mounts the horse, and goes off across the land, pursuing Meredith, pursuing Malachi and his men, encountering hardship, slavery, butchery wherever he goes, taking out hundreds of these goons as he does, and then learning in a shock, horrible moment, where's the girl? Where's the girl? And Alice Krieg's the mother, who's alive, she hasn't died. A little locket of the pictures of her family. Where's that girl? She's dead. So he goes into a huge lapse. And it's very, very similar to in Clint Eastwood's movies, pretty much all of them, not just The Man with No Name, but even Dirty Harry or his other cop thrillers. He always gets a beating, he always goes through an odyssey, a moment where his life's at a point of, look, I'm just going to give up, it's over. But then he's got to redeem himself and go back. So he goes to a town, people recognise him. Aren't you Captain Kane? I used to serve with you. But Kane is now, because he thinks Meredith's dead, so it's all over, his quest is over. He's seeking the solace. And I don't blame him, of alcohol. So, he's kind of given up. But they're saying, no, we could fight back against this Malachi who's ransacking the land. with you. You're the best swordsman, the most badass motherfucker we've ever known. I'll follow you to the gates of hell. The gates of hell, boy. I'm actually adding my own script there, by the way. And, but he doesn't want to do it. Nah, forget it. It's all over. She's dead, so what's the point? And then, of course, during the night, Malachi's men come in there because they've heard the rebellions afoot, slicing and dicing a few, and then crucifying those who defy Malachi, including our boy. They nail him up to the cross. So again, more magnificent religious symbolism. Conan was crucified as well. But of course, Conan in the books was crucified. Those stories were written after Solomon Kane. So Robert E. Howard took that theme and used it again for Conan. But not only have you got Solomon Kane and Conan crucified, you've also got, and that guy, Jesus Christ, let's not forget about him as well. In the film The Sword and the Sorcerer, which you guys will know is one of my absolute favourite movies. Cheesy, camp as fuck, but awesome entertainment and great sword and sorcery as well. And Lee Horsley's Prince Talon, the renegade hero of the piece, gets crucified during a big feast and manages to tear himself off the cross and then lead a huge revolt and fight sorcerers and demons and big badass arch enemies, even though he should have great big gaping holes in his palms, but seems to get over that really quickly. Well, you've got Solomon Kane, James Purefoy, in the absolute torrential rain. Michael J Bassett's films are filled with rain or snow. He said to us he loves to have something happening between the viewer and the viewer and the action on screen. So the screen is filled with snow or just something happening, something blowing past, just something to distract the eye and give the image more feel. And it does work. But in this relentless downpour, just to add insult to injury, he's just miserable. He's nailed to a cross. He's been beaten and it's pissing down as well. Not a good day out, that is it. But then the prison wagon procession goes past, and Meredith's in the back of it, the daughter, the girl he's been trying to track down, and she sees him, Solomon Kane, and he hears this, and he just, oh, come on, and Meredith, and like the music begins to swell, and he begins to tear his hand off the nail, but unlike in Sword and the Sorcerer, his hands don't quite heal. Tears his hands off, he shouts, Meredith! And then he falls off the cross and lands in all the mud. But he's knackered, there's not much he can do. Anyway, he saved a local herbal woman, be it a real witch maybe, uses her lotions and potions on him to cure his hands, and he can do that again, yeah, and he can wield weapons. My God, take your pagan magic away from me, woman. It's my pagan magic that brought you back to life. Oh, and in that case then, pass the ale and me sword. The accent's going all over the show here, isn't it? But Solomon Kane did travel far and wide, so he'll pick it up. Anyway, so he will then, with this ragtag bunch of people, some of whom knew him, one of which is Rory McCann, the Hound from Game of Thrones, yes, Sandor Clegane is there. You barely ever see him, to be honest, in this. He will lead a revolt, and that revolt, he then finds, of course, its destiny. He was outcast. In flashbacks, we learn about his father. Who was his father, I hear you ask? It was played by Max von Sydow. The great Max von Sydow. Michael J Bassett got a hell of a cast into this. God almighty. So, and because he wants his younger son, which is Solomon Kane, to take a life in the priesthood. What? Can't I just go and have fun instead? I've got like a raging heart inside me. I want to travel the world. I want to rape and pillage and get pissed all the time. You want to fucking go and sing hymns and pray? Fuck that. So, he won't do that then, because the eldest son is the one who's going to inherit the kingdom. And he's like this fucking brash, arrogant bastard, like. And he's like, yeah, go on, right, it's mine, I'm the firstborn. So, well, if you won't take it up, Solomon, then that's it. You're outcast from this family and from this kingdom forever. You mean nothing to me. So, the young Solomon Kane storms out. But on the cliff top, he encounters his brother, who's about to rape a girl. So in a bit of a tussle, he pushes his brother, who stumbles off the edge of the cliff, crashes down the rocks below. Oh no, not only have I had an argument with my dad, I've killed my brother as well. Oh shit, well, all I can do now is go out and lay waste to the entire known world with pirate ships and an armada of bloodthirsty cutthroats at my disposal. Which is what he does. But then he learns, of course, that Malachi has taken residence in his family home. So off he goes, leading the revolt. Revelations ensue that you could have seen coming, I'll be honest. There was no way on earth that the minute that masked Darth Vader-like acolyte, riding a horse into battle, leading this procession of orc-like men, transforming normal people into these monsters, these monstrous minions to do his bidding. And he's working for Malachi, this big evil sorcerer. Behind a mask, aren't you? Yes! It's his brother! It's his brother! Of course, his brother didn't die. His brother was brought back by evil sorcery, by Malachi, to serve Malachi. And of course, what happened to Max von Sydow? The Kane, Big Father Kane? He's still there, but he's imprisoned in the dungeons there, languishing there to pay the price for what he's done. And Solomon will find his dad, and his dad will say, I'm sorry, son, and all this. And no, father. I'm the one who's sorry. But he can't free him. And even he can undo the chains. My life's not worth living. Solomon, you must end it for me now. So Solomon puts a pistol to him, blows his own father away. And then we'll go out and fight this guy in the mask, which turns out to be his brother. He'll unmask him and see his brother's disfigured face, disfigured on the outside, hideously mangled on the inside as well, because he's such a badass lunatic. He'll kill him, but not before meeting Malachi. Malachi, played by Jason Fleming, who's done a fair bit of playing monsters in his time. And he plays kind of a lackluster villain at the end. What he will do, he'll unleash one of these mirror beasts, and the mirror beast plunges through for a big bad final tussle with Solomon Kane in this huge set. And it's basically a Balrog, but in melting bits of metal and chain. And Solomon will manage to beat that, and he'll put a bullet through the skull of Malachi, and he'll save Meredith, and Meredith will say, you're redeemed. No, my lady. Wherever there's evil afoot, you'll find Solomon Kane. My work is not done. It's wonderful. This film has such a visual appeal. So many set pieces which are purely Howard. You've got Solomon Kane meeting Mackenzie Crook, who runs a dilapidated old abbey. And beneath the boughs of the abbey, he's got all his flock who are all zombified. They're zombies living below there. But how do you keep them? Well, I feed them. They're my people, my flock. And he kicks Solomon Kane down there, and a great battle ensues in the catacombs down there. That is pure Robert E. Howard. Michael J. Bassett has given the backstory to Kane that Howard never did. This whole thing of having the devil hot on his heels, and then Kane suddenly turning around and just saying, all right, I'm not running anymore. Come on then, you big red bastard. Give me your best shot. It's wonderful. Purefoy is magnificent. He owns this role. He should have got more. God, if they just marketed this film properly, there would have been a franchise here. He looks amazing. Yes, there's a Hugh Jackman similarity, but he can't help that. He looks like Hugh Jackman. But his conviction to the character, he invests it with so much heart, vigour, torment, angst, bitterness, regret, and finally redemption that you're rooting for him every fucking step of the way. He is a great, great cinematic character, writ large by Bassett at his absolute height of his powers. Visually, this film is tremendous. There may be some ropey CG there, but it's just 2009, and it's not a big budget movie, and yet it looks $1 million. Well, it looks like $40 million, because that's how much it cost. The locations are great. The sets are huge. And the story, it's okay. It's nothing particularly new. But then again, it's based on what Howard wrote, and it's given more meat to the bones of Solomon Kane than Howard ever did. And his conviction to it, as I say, his sword fighting skills are excellent. The fighting is brilliant. There's plenty of gore, there's lots of head loppings and transformations and beasts and all sorts of disembowelings and guttings. Klaus Badelt's score is brooding, dark, melancholy and magnificent. Klaus Badelt, a protege of Hans Zimmer, so it does sound very similar to Hans Zimmer stuff as well, but it is a brooding, heavy, dense score which follows the moralistic battle and crusade that Solomon Kane is fighting within himself. Folks, I absolutely adore this movie. My friend, good friend and neighbour, Ramsey Campbell, the greatest living horror writer in the world, yeah, Stephen King, take note, Ramsey's better than you, wrote the novelisation of the movie as well, because he's a big fan too. This should have spawned many more. It tells a lovely, complete story in its own right, giving the backstory, giving an adventure, giving an odyssey, giving little vignettes along the way. Powerfully acted, beautifully shot. A camera shot of Kane entering Mackenzie Crook's church, where the camera goes up and over and into the church, following James Purefoy into this place, is amazing. Folks, I'm going to run out of time, which is such a shame because I feel like I've only just got started. But Solomon Kane, he does it for me, he'll do it for you. So come on, back this man. He is the avenger for the Lord, and his adventures are just beginning. So, folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man, and always shall be smitten with Solomon Kane. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Get it. It's awesome. Folks, take it easy, and I'm going to see you all later with puritanical zeal to spare.